We're going live, Joan. We do it live. Yeah, we do it live. Okay, we are live. It is 7 o'clock. Welcome to the live stream where we do it live. We're just going to hang out a little bit, see who drifts in here. Right, little Joan? Why, update you on my weekend. So I went to a book fest at the Burlington County Library, and that was pretty interesting. They moved it inside. It was going to be outside. The weather's been pretty nice in general, although it kind of gravitates between about high 50s to high 70s. So, bit of a jump. And they ended up moving it inside for the air quality, they said. But thank God they did, because there was some rain. Joan, where you going? We just got started. Let everybody see your pretty face. So I sold some books there. Librarians were very nice. Lots of people came out. A very busy library over in Burlington, by the way. Kudos to you. Lots of stuff going on. It wasn't just the book fest. Like, kept running into people like, oh, yeah, well, it was a book fest today. Like, so you're, like, coming to the library all the time. Oh, yeah. And I was just like, wow. Haven't been to a library in years, quite frankly, not with the internet, but people are still going. Who knew? So then today was Lucille's luncheonette, Joan. Joan, I'm not going to put you down right away. At least stay until somebody gets here. I know. You're very cross. But we can't go anywhere. You're going to ask me to go somewhere the moment I put you on the ground. And then I'm going to end up going back to get you. Going back to get you, okay? So just relax. So today was Lucille's luncheonette, Sunday. And that was nice. That was nice. The weather, for the most part, was good. It was a little windy. And I got me my Anthony Bourdain special breakfast that they make when Anthony Bourdain went there, and that is scrapple eggs, hash browns with onions. Oh, those are really good. Oh, man, they're good. And what else? Oh, toast. Always got to have some toast when you go out for breakfast, right? You don't really need it, but you're just kind of like, yeah, let me get some toast. Have some crunchy toast. And there was a lot of bikers at Lucille's, because that's kind of like a place where the bikers go. It's kind of out in the pines. There's a lot of empty roads, sort of highway-ish in the pines. They're not real. I mean, they're like secondary highways. They're not like Atlantic City Expressway is like a highway through the pines, but they're more like routes, like secondary routes. So they're nice. There's no tolls or anything like that. So I saw a lot of bikers. There were Vietnam vet bikers. I don't know if you know those guys. The bikers that have the missing in action patches and that kind of thing. And they had a lot of cool bikes. A lot of cool bikes. I'm not a motorcycle guy myself. I had a friend who got into a horrible accident in one, and he went from being normal blue collar guy to the Rain Man because he ended up being in a coma for it was a relatively short time, but enough to damage him, and it was a shame. He was never the same after that. But the other big news, and I was going to save this for people to get in here, Joe, but nobody's here, so we'll say it now so people can watch it on the rerun. Joan got hit by a skunk the other day, so it's about 3 days ago. It was a tiny little skunk about this big, and Joan cornered it in the yard, and the poor thing couldn't figure out how to get under the fence in a different spot. Like there's like a highway in my backyard with the groundhog and a few other creatures, and the poor skunk was, I guess he was kind of following that route, but he got to the end of it, and then Joan cornered him, and he couldn't figure out how to get out, and so he turned around and blasted Joan, and Joan stunk. So Joan had to get a bath which you know is not high on Joan's list. Oh, here we go. It's Marshall J. 2. Well, you're right. The Little Mermaid is flopping at the box office. Well, I didn't have to be Nostradamus to call that one. Welcome, Marshall. Yeah, the Little Mermaid was a dumb idea. It's a dumb idea to remake a movie. Unless you have something like mind-blowingly different, a different take maybe, or like if there had been a singer that looked spot on like the Little Mermaid, right? Let's say it was like Billie Eilish, except she had bright red hair, and they constantly compared her to the Little Mermaid, and she was this huge pop star, and she even sang a few of her songs in concert. Then maybe you could build a movie around that, because you could build it on her fans, and people would be like, oh, that would be kind of cool to see her do the Little Mermaid, the whole trip, every single song. But these dumb asses at Disney, in my view, they just can't help themselves. So not only do they remake the movie live action, yeah, they got a decent singer. Like, she's not a bad singer, but they're a dime a dozen when you get right down to it. You can't just get any singer. You have to get the singer of the moment. Who would that be now? I guess Taylor Swift? I don't know. And Taylor Swift would be wrong for it, even with the wig. I don't even think she'd do it. Disney doesn't have the money they used to blow on this kind of thing. So they got Halle Bailey, who's okay. She's in the mix. I'm sure she's a millionaire. But she's not top notch. I'm sure she was more excited about this movie than people making a movie, when you think about it. Okay, I'm going to put you down because you're so anxious. I swear to God, if you start barking. All right, Joan's going, because she cannot be good. Cannot sit for the live stream. So, and it would also be different too if they did essentially a tribute to the original movie, right? They did it exactly frame for frame. Maybe? Melissa McCarthy wasn't a bad casting choice, except I don't does she sing? I think she had a song. I'll tell you who was a terrible choice was Awkwafina. Jesus. Marshall, the backlash really hurt the movie performance, especially in the international market. They rejected it, especially in China. They really didn't like the race swap of a very beloved character. Well, yes and no. The Chinese, and I've talked about this in other videos before, and YouTube, there's plenty of data to back me up on this, so don't flag me. But in China, they are extremely racist against black people. That is just the lay of the land currently in China. There are stories coming out of China. And I got the receipts on this one, YouTube. You can see on your own damn platform. There's videos of people, Chinese authorities, kicking out people who are black from their malls and various other places. During a certain medical pandemic, Nigerian exchange students, and there's quite a few of them from what I understand in China, they were kicked out of their dorms and not allowed back in. Some of them had to live underneath a bridge for several days. So it is not a good situation. And we all know the story about John Boyega, or maybe you don't, Marshall. I don't know if you heard this. John Boyega, who plays Finn in the horrible Star Wars prequels, he's black. He was on the movie poster. In the Chinese version of the movie poster, they shrank him down and put him sort of in the background of the poster. For the Black Panther poster, they put what's his name, Bowman, in his mask, like in his outfit, so you couldn't see him. You could only see the outfit. So this is what the Chinese do to black actors and black characters because they know there'll be a bad backlash. Ironically, it is the Chinese government that accuses the American government of having tons and tons of racist problems. But that's neither here nor there. Regarding the movie, it's not just the race swap for them, it is the race swap, if you know what I'm saying. So, if they had picked Aquafina, God forbid, to be the Little Mermaid, probably wouldn't have gotten as big a backlash in China. Might have done okay. Who knows? Marshall, yes, I have heard about that. I missed one. Yes, you're 100% right. So it doesn't make sense for Disney to sell the movie over there, knowing China's history with black people. Yeah, but this is what Disney does. I don't think I'm not. Yeah, I go back and forth. So on Sundays, I go, they're just that incompetent, right? That the Disney execs are so incompetent, so ignorant, so ill-read that no one cares, no one checks, and they just do these things. Because they're so woke and so stupid, they don't care. Then I go the other way and I say, well, they do care and they do know what they're doing because this is all about ESG and they knew the movie would tank anyway, so they just went ahead with it to get their ESG points. And then the third option is that Disney is so deeply infiltrated by CCP operatives, we'll call them, that they're moving the needle in the worst possible directions on purpose. So imagine you have, and I'm not even suggesting that it's necessarily Chinese employees. It would have to be a Chinese national doing the directing. But you can imagine a scenario in which, the CCP operatives get some dirt on some executive at Disney or whatever, and then just blackmail them or push them into doing stuff. I mean, spycraft, this is what they do. They blackmail you, they bribe you, or they just kind of push you in that direction. Whatever it takes to get you to do what they want done. And it is my contention that the CCP wants to destroy Hollywood and replace it with their Hollywood, or at least control it. And I think they have undue influence. I don't know that they control it yet, but they have quite a bit of influence. It's obvious. So, how is Disney going to respond? Well, the way China would want them to respond is to say, oh, we didn't cater this movie enough to Chinese audiences, which is a disaster, because the more Disney caters things towards China, the worse their situation, because they'll be more dependent upon China. The more they're dependent upon China, the more control the Chinese have over Hollywood. So, yeah. And the movie itself, it's just dark. It's just dark. It doesn't improve anything. And you have to improve. If you're going to do a reboot or a remake, or whatever the hell this is, you have to improve it. The idea that censoring the songs and changing certain actions to make it even more woke was a good idea. I mean, this shows you the judgment of Disney. They have no judgment. They're lost. Marshall, now they said Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny might flop at the box office. I'm not sure. Your thoughts? I think I don't know about flopping. I mean, according to, I just watched the Doomcock video, which you should totally watch, by the way. He just put out yet another video about the Dial of Destiny and Kathleen Kennedy, mostly about Kathleen Kennedy, who runs Lucas. And him and Cameron Cashaw, I think his name is, they seem to have the inside scoop on what's going on. And the word is the movie cost $300 million to make, which is it's like the most expensive movie of all time. It needs to make $900 million to break even, or not, maybe not break even, but to be satisfying enough that Bob Iger won't fire Kathleen Kennedy, supposedly. Um, do I believe that? I think that's probable. I mean, it seems that way, and the evidence that Doomcock gives, although he's been calling for this for a while, and he did call for Kathleen would be out sooner than this, is he points to a article which I called up because I wanted to show you it. It's called "The Force Has Left Lucasfilms: What Has Gone Wrong with the Studio Behind Star Wars and Indiana Jones, and How Disney's Bob Iger Can Salvage His $4 billion investment." So he got into this in the video, and in a nutshell, what Doomcock says is Disney wouldn't allow this article unless they wanted a hit piece on Kathleen Kennedy, because they're laying the groundwork to fire her and possibly screw her out of money, which will probably get them a lawsuit. But they want the public and like the shareholders to be like, oh yeah, I read about that. Oh yeah, seems things are going poorly thanks to Kathleen Kennedy. I read a very detailed article on Fortune or Forbes or wherever this is from. It says Fortune. I thought he said Forbes. And in terms of the Dial of Destiny as a movie, it was completely unnecessary. I talked about this in another video. So if I created Indiana Jones, right? And I had some books like the Pineys, and it was Indy 1, Indy 2, Indy 3. Marshall, now only that I think people just tired of the live action remakes from Disney, plus a lot of her hate for Disney these days. Do you agree? There is a lot of anger towards Disney for their woke stances. Yes. And they're just, part of it is they're the big dog, and they have a high standard to live up to, and they've done some really stupid things. One of the main things they did, which endangers the parks, and you have to understand a lot of the money comes from their parks, they did two things. The first thing they did was they changed the dress code on the employees. Now, previously, the dress code was pretty stringent. The employees couldn't have tattoos, earrings, showing, like all that stuff had to be covered up. Because the idea was Disney was, a nice place, a wholesome place. So no pink hair, no tattoos, just normal looking people, in other words. They lifted that ban. And that was, I think, their capitulation to their woke employees who wanted to look like a bunch of weirdos. Mostly, I would guess, women. Then there's all the woke stuff, right? So between pushing a ridiculous agenda of LGBTQ2S plus constantly, they pushed it in the parks, and you've already seen it. You saw, I don't know if you'd call him a drag queen, but he was working on the, they have this thing where you go shopping with a assistant princess or one of the Disney princesses, because you get the little girls get made up as princesses, and so they had a guy doing it, and he wasn't just in a dress; he was in full makeup and everything. He looked like a drag queen, a subtler one, but and I don't know why you would want that. Why you would want to bring, say, your 6-year-old to Disney and then have to explain why that man was in a dress. Like, you don't want to have that conversation with a 6-year-old. They're not ready for that conversation, despite the woke woke tards who think little kids are. And, you just don't want that on vacation. You don't want to have to deal with that. And it's weird. For most people, that's weird. It's odd. It's like, what are you doing? What they want is a girl dressed as Princess Jasmine or Cinderella or one of the princesses. Oh, hi, I'm Cinderella and I'm here to help you shop. Or I'm Cinderella's assistant and I'm here to help you shop. And, she looks like a princess and then she helps make the little girl up as princess. It's a girl thing. It should be for girls. They love that kind of stuff. I don't know why they hired a man to do it. It's just nuts. But this is the way Disney has been going on for, forever. Next year, the live-action remake Snow White from Disney is coming out, so clearly they're not going to stop making live-action remakes. Now, to some extent, it makes them money, right? This is all Marshall, by the way. I don't know where everybody is these days. I don't know if they're getting my feed. So, one of the things that I wrote about in Hollywoke, another novel, and I learned this from my friend who worked at Disney, was there tends to be this idea at the studios that you can copy hit movies with a movie that's very similar and kind of make your money, if you know what I mean. So in Hollywoke, another novel, we have a character and the running joke is she runs the division and all she does is copy other successful movies cheaply. John Adams is here? Hi, John. Welcome. He says, I'm here, just lurking. Well, glad to see you're among us, Founding Father. So, in the book, she just copies everything. Like every hit movie that comes out, she has one in development that's just like it. This is something that's fairly common in Hollywood. So, superhero movies get big. You start making superhero movies. However you can. You just don't spend 50, 100, 200 million dollars on it. You spend $20 million on it and do whatever you can. So essentially what I feel like some of this is Disney adopting that strategy. So making a live action Snow White is a stupid idea. But from their perspective, they can guarantee some money. But the part they're not doing it is they're not making it cheaply because they can't. They're Disney. They can't make anything cheaply anymore, in my view. Marshall, hi John, glad you're here on this amazing knowledge channel. Wow, that's so nice. So, it's like, they're making the movie, but it's going to be full of, I assume they hired at least some celebrities. I mean, is Angelina Jolie back as the Witch Queen? They ain't going to make it cheap. I had another friend who worked at Disney, and he told me about the era where they tried to do YouTube videos, right? Now, I do YouTube videos. I bought a camera, like, I don't know, 4 years ago at Target for like $50. I got a microphone. I think it cost $100. I got a few other odds and ends. I had a second camera, but it broke, and I haven't been able to replace it yet. But, it didn't cost a lot of money. And then the production is just me talking. Here, Disney decided to build studios for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Stocked it with union guys to shoot the damn thing. It doesn't make any sense. They can't invade YouTube and take it over. They just can't. Marshall, had you ever checked out these Disney live-action remakes? I've watched clips of it. They don't interest me. They're terrible. I mean, it's the difference between watching the cartoon characters and the live-action animals. The live-action animals don't look like cartoon characters. They're too real looking. So they don't have, you watch The Jungle Book, the cartoon, and the bear is very expressive. The panther, very expressive. The snake, you just don't get that expressiveness if you're going to make them realistic CGI. You just don't get it. It can't happen. Even the actors aren't as expressive as some of that early animation. That was part of its charm. You know, when the bear is singing, I think he sings Bare Necessities in that movie. You know, it's a jaunty tune with this expressive character singing along, and you get caught up in it. I don't even know if they had to tune in the live action remake. I don't know how they could even do it. It wouldn't look the same. The movie looked dark. You know, the mermaid movie looks dark. All the clips of that, it looks like it was shot in a cave. Is that more realistic? Yeah, but that doesn't make it better. John Adams, they're terrible. I wish Disney would go back to 2D animation by hand. Oh, you mean the live action? Yeah, the live action terrible. The 2D animation was great by hand. I mean, it's wonderful because you can see the artistry in every frame, but it's very expensive now. Marshall, what is your favorite Disney anime classic? Well, Disney animated classic would be... I really like Robin Hood. That's a good one. Oh, gosh. I guess Robin Hood. With the same, basically the same cast almost. Marshall, I agree with you, John. I miss the animation by hand. Yeah, I mean, but they just won't do that. The amount of money they would have to spend in Southern California, forget it. They'd have to export it all to South Korea. And now it's partly done by computer. So it's not... They could do it cheaper than they could back in the day, but it still wouldn't have that, you know, that look. Fantasia is great. I haven't seen that in years. I'm trying to think of some of the others. I mean, they used to be classics. They used to show them all the time. You know, the Little Mermaid. I mean, for me as an older guy, like that was like, oh, that newfangled Little Mermaid. No, thank you. So, but I get it. I mean, I see frames from that and I go, well, I could see why people like this movie. It looks good. It's probably, it's you know, it's about halfway to what they used to do. I don't think that was all drawn by hand. I think it was probably half hand and half. They have this program where, for instance, you can make Homer walk, like Homer Simpson walk. And you only have to draw like 3 panels and or Homer 3 times, and then the computer will fill in the gaps. And then you can pinpoint various parts on his body and then move him around. So that's what they do now. Ryan Citro is here. Hello. All right. Now we got a live stream. Finally, we got 3 people in the live stream. I was a little worried last week. Last week I was on Rumble. I think it was last week. Yeah. And only Clint Miller showed up, and he's not here. I don't know what happened to Clint. So let me reiterate that, why I think of it. If you don't see me here, if I get shut down again, the backup, the number 1 backup will be Rumble, because I can do live streams there. Ryan says, how are you doing? I'm doing fine, Ryan. I'm doing good. Joan got sprayed by a skunk a few days ago. I told that story earlier. Carter Chain is here. Everybody's showing up. Oh, and he had to retract his message for some reason. Oh, I hope you didn't say anything too spicy, Carter. Marshall, my favorite anime classic is The Little Mermaid and the way back Alice in Wonderland and Sleeping Beauty. Yeah, those are good too. Carter Chain, I'm just making food. I just ate dinner. And there's Joan doing what I thought she'd end up doing, barking at nonsense. John Adams, I've heard Treasure Planet was purposely ruined in marketing by Disney to justify getting rid of the 2D animation department. Well, I wouldn't be surprised. That sounds like a Disney move. Sounds like an inter-studio battle. You know, it happens. It happens when these places get too big. I mean, I've heard rumors that Marvel battles in Marvel Comics have been similar over the years because they split the comics into various houses: the House of Spider-Man, the House of X-Men, the House of this, the House of that, and then they sometimes fight. So it wouldn't surprise me. There's so many divisions at Disney. I mean, it is the biggest of the media companies. And that's part of the problem, really. It's just too big. So again, when they tried to break into YouTube, they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on videos. Like, per video. You can't spend that kind of money. YouTube is not meant to do that. You're meant to do videos for tens of cents and then just put them up. It's content. Content is different from movies and TV. Like, there's content like this, and then there's crafted stuff like, you know, a real TV show or a movie. That's crafted. That's supposed to be crafted. That can't be content. I know I'm making a weird distinction here, but this, you know, podcasting is it's like junk food in some ways. It can be good. Don't get me wrong. There's some well-produced podcasts out there, but there's so much of it. Most of it's not good, and is probably a higher percentage of not good podcasts than TV and movies, which was already a high bar. Marshall, I miss the old Disney. Not the same when I was a child. Now look back at probably Walt rolling in his grave. Yeah, that's for sure. In his frozen grave. Razor Fist, by the way, has an awesome video. The last video he did, I think, that wasn't a video game thing or a rant, was about Walt Disney and how he was very anti-communist and how much the company has changed, really. It's sad. But yeah, I remember an older Disney. You remember the Disney from the 90s. I remember the Disney from the 70s. Now that Disney was known, it was falling apart. They were in trouble because they were known to make movies for children. And so the perception was, when I was a kid, oh, Disney's for babies. So, like, their biggest hit in the 70s was Benji. And that was rated G. And they made G-rated movies. That were just totally harmless. No cursing whatsoever. Nothing even remotely adult. And Benji it was about a dog. It wasn't necessarily a bad movie. But they didn't have much else. And then, in the 80s, they started separate divisions, and they started compartmentalizing these divisions out of Disney to make more adult fare, so they could compete in the marketplace. So they made, I think the first R-rated Disney, wasn't it The Black Hole, I think? But that was made under one of their production houses, one of their subheadings. But they had other movies that were just regular movies. Like, you know, they weren't for kids. They weren't X-rated, but they were like, you know, rom-coms and things like that. And so some of these other, I think Castle Rock was one. There was a handful of others. They were big for about 10 minutes, and a lot of them got rolled back into Disney over the years. But they would make regular movies. And that was Jeffrey Eisner who had come in and sort of changed things around. Axel Ogle, welcome. Dual streaming Tony D and Viva Frey. Too much sensory input. Well, sorry to overload your brain. Marshall, I just turned 62, so old enough to remember some of the old Disney. Oh, okay. Yeah, so you're definitely in my wheelhouse here. So you remember those days. And the 80s, though, Eisenberg transformed the company, made it leaner and meaner. It got Disney wouldn't get out of G-rated movies. It was all about the parks and all about making cartoons and stuff for little kids. They had to get out of that, and they did. And for a while, they were very, very successful at it. And eventually, they went back into animation, and then you got the Little Mermaid and all the various, Aladdin, all the various hits there, and they were doing well. They were doing well with all that, and it wasn't like there wasn't a balance. You had more adult fare, but it was compartmentalized away from the regular Disney movies, and no one cared because they weren't expecting to go to the movies and see, I don't know, I can't think of a movie that was produced by Disney that was adult, but I can remember movies from that era, so I'll say Fatal Attraction. Like, no one would go see Fatal Attraction if it was produced by one of those production houses and then expect to see it at a Disneyland a Disneyland ride. Oh, ride the Fatal Attraction ride. Like, nobody expected that. So they just made movies and they made money, and it was all going great. And eventually you get to Bob Iger, and he took over at a time when things were already going great. And then before he left the first time, he bought a bunch of stuff. He bought Star Wars. He bought Fox. He bought, The Simpsons, which I can't stand. He bought all these things, and Marshall asks, so how do you feel about Bob Iger running Disney? Into the ground, I'll say. He's ruining Disney again. But he did it first. He was the guy who brought in all the woke morons because he saw this as the future, I guess. I think he may be he's either the keystone when it comes to ESG, that the ESG guys at BlackRock and everywhere else want Iger in because he's a believer in it, or he thinks it's going to make him more money, and it probably does, or he's an actual idiot that believes on all this woke nonsense. Marshall, yes, I remember that terrible movie, Black Hole. Very disappointed when I went to see it in the theater. Yeah, a lot of people rave about that movie, and I just don't get it. It's a terrible movie. It's awful. I remember wanting to go see it, and I think I did because there were boobs in it. I think it had boobs in it, which is why it was rated R. But yeah, so Iger rolls in, brings in all these woke morons, and it turns out, again, Doomcock was right. Watch Doomcock's old videos. He called it. Bob Chapek was trying to get the woke out of Disney, but they outmaneuvered him, and it was a disaster. And then they ended up firing him. There was a last-ditch attempt right after Chapek got fired to stave off the woke and Iger, but it didn't work, and now they're back in the control. So, I mean, you could look forward to more, I don't know, employees going on strike, I guess. I mean, half the industry's on strike, more than half the industry. We got the DGA strike, which I think there's an article about today. You got the writer's strike. You could potentially have an actor strike. You might as well have it now. If you're close to a strike in the actors union, why not have it now? Settle everything. So it's just a disaster. And the parks are in trouble too. The rumor is the parks are not doing well. And that's traditionally where Disney made all its money. Their fight with Ron DeSantis is pointless. It's utterly pointless. They were idiots for starting it, which the only thing I can think of, again, it's a CCP op. That the CCP wants to destroy Disney. Maybe Iger thinks he has an ego big enough to think he could outmaneuver DeSantis, a government official who's the governor of Florida, but I don't see how he could. I honestly don't see how the CEO of Disney thinks he can dictate to the governor that he doesn't have in his back pocket. I've heard in previous years that Disney had the governor in their back pocket, but they don't own DeSantis. That's clear. Marshall, you're right about Bob Iger. The other Bob was set to be the failed bleh, set to be the fall guy. Sorry. Yeah, it seems that way. Or maybe he initially got the gig and then Iger realized he made a mistake, or the forces of ESG said, oh, he's going to try to undo what you did, Bob. You have to go back in there if you want your money. And Iger went, okay. So it's a big mess, is what it is. And it's destroying Disney. And if the parks go, they are done. Because you think they're cutting back on movies now. And there's a cap on all the budgets now at Disney, which, how did you not have a cap before? I don't understand. How do you not have a cap of like $200 million on a movie? I mean, I can make literally any movie for $200 million. Any movie. I could make Avatar for $200 million. It'd probably be better than the Avatar they had. I hate Avatar. John Adams. Hi, y'all. That said hi. I'm cooking. Don't mean to be rude. No, you're good, John. You're good. We should have a little emoticon for cooking. Carter. Iger is definitely used to running the governor. Now he's sweating because the governor is running him. Yeah. But, I mean, that seemed obvious, right? I mean, DeSantis is a Republican governor. If Disney owned him, then I don't know, they would have given him some money or something. They would have him by the cojones. They obviously don't, so either DeSantis screwed himself and figures, I'll get money elsewhere, or he never took money to begin with, which I think is probably likely the case, because he got elected, but mostly because of Trump's endorsement and his current policies. So, what the hell were you thinking, trying to pressure him? You think you're going to play hardball? Marshall, the streaming service is really failing. Lost so many subscribers. Yeah. Well, that was another thing I talked about in Hollywoke, another novel. I postulated in Hollywoke, and I still contend this is the case, that all the streaming services are lying about their numbers. They're lying about all of it. And there seems to be evidence to that fact. It may not be a fact. I don't know. Please don't sue me. I don't know anything. I'm stupid. It's just all my opinion. So, what I have seen through various articles and videos, whatever, is that they're counting people in the streaming service who don't even stream the damn thing, right? Like, I got HBO Max free with my phone because I bought this expensive phone. And I still have it. And I hardly watch it, but it's free. So, if I never watched it or even activated the service, why would you count me as a subscriber? You can count me as a subscriber, I guess. Because technically I am, even though I'm not paying for it, but like if I had gotten that for free and didn't know and never activated the account, how could you count me as a subscriber? But you know, it's probably not illegal. It sounds unethical to me, but they might have literally tens of thousands, if not millions of people who had the service for free because they packaged it with their phone or maybe their internet. I mean, because it's worldwide. There are other crazy plans like in India and stuff. And then they're counting people who got it free, maybe never activated. They're counting, I think, past subscribers who then deactivated their account. They counted people who I think were offered it free. They were counting like people you would not, you know, if you were running a company like a normal person, you just wouldn't count them. You wouldn't even think to count them just to beef up their numbers. Well, now that's falling apart so the drop is probably more sheer than what they're even reporting. Because keep in mind, it's, you know, streaming, what do you get? The reason they all are chasing the Netflix, you know, treasure. Netflix made its bones because it was cheap. Period. I got Netflix because it was only $5 a month and there was a ton of stuff on it. Most of it I didn't watch, but if I watched one thing a month, that's my $5. It's like a rental. That's why I got it. I didn't get it because there was great stuff on Netflix. It's still, most of it sucks. I'm saying 99% of the stuff on Netflix totally blows. Now Disney, okay, they got some stuff. They got the Marvel movies. I watched the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special. It was pretty good. There's a few other things, maybe. But it's still not a TV network. You could binge watch it all in a month. Easy. All the good stuff, anyway. And once you've done that, once you've watched all the big stuff on Disney, you need constant content of that quality, or why did I pay for the service? And it ain't $5 a month. It's more than that. Marshall asked, did Disney lost their self-government power? Well, they're certainly in danger of losing it. I mean, DeSantis is in a battle to take it away. They shouldn't have had it in the first place, I don't think. But they had this, they essentially were their own government. And now they're in a fight and they can only lose. It's just a matter of time before DeSantis wins, because what do you think? What do you think the court's going to rule? Oh, you know what? Nah, I think corporations should run Florida. They're not going to rule that. That's pretty basic law. I don't think you have to be a lawyer to realize, no, corporations don't run states. The state runs it. So they're screwed. They're going to be paying taxes. They're going to have fire companies, post offices, and police stations either taken over or built in certain areas. And if they were covering up any crimes or problems, they ain't going to be covering them up anymore, because not only will they have those cops and firemen and whatnot, they're probably going to be openly hostile to Disney. They're not going to look the other way. Like, if I work at Disney and let's say there's a brawl, right? And I have to break up a fight. I might, as a corporate guy, I could just settle it, right? I could say, well, look, you broke his camera, give him $100, and you guys just leave the park, okay? And they go, okay, and they leave, which in some respects is a better way to do it, but I digress. But not anymore. Now, actual cops will be arresting people and saying, well, you assaulted this guy, you're going to jail. And then that becomes a matter of public record. And then the local newspaper says, oh, there was another fight in Disney today. And then that gets out into the public, and people read, man, there seems to be a lot of fights in Disney these days. I don't think I want to go to that park. Some guy was beaten, they might say. I mean, there was a brawl just recently. Now, the internet will, if it's bad enough, that'll be all over the internet, and it has been. But that just makes it all the more worse. Plus, you're going to have, mailmen walking around, firemen, again, fire inspectors. That would be a thing that maybe Disney would look the other way on a certain thing. Now it's going to be like, oh, there's no handicap entrance here for, your haunted house. Or it's not big enough. You're going to have to tear it all down and rebuild it. Maybe the Disney guys would be like, that's close enough. No harm, no foul. It could cost Disney a lot more money, on top of the fact they're cutting back on things. Clownfish TV, they also run Pirates and Princesses. By the way, hi Clownfish TV. Sorry I didn't do an article this week. I just got caught up and stuff, and I just completely forgot to do it. I'm just completely fried. Sorry. Anyhow, they've been cutting back on all kinds of little perks. This is typical of companies that are trying to reel things in. They're trying to cut costs, and they're trying to make more money. Oh, how much money do we spend on that perk? Oh, well, let's cut that. That is something companies do. And I'm not knocking Disney necessarily for doing that, but that's poor timing. So you've got this timing of money is tight. We're cutting back on perks. Maybe I think they've raised their prices. And on top of that, now you're seeing brawls in Disney. That is not a good look. And on top of that, you got tattooed blue-haired weirdos running the rides. I don't think people like that. Alex, controversial take. Disney has never made a good interpretation of a story. Having read Peter Pan and Wendy, the original book by J.M. Barrie, I understood what a schmaltzy mess the Disney movie was. I can imagine. I haven't read the book, but the animation's nice. And it is a fun movie. But I get what you're saying. Yeah, Disney is very schmaltzy, especially that stuff, for the most part. That's why I like, though, Robin Hood. I don't think Robin Hood is very schmaltzy. I don't think it's such a controversial take. Schmaltz can get very tiresome. And I hate that about some Steven Spielberg movies. They're very schmaltzy and saccharine, and I just go, ugh. Carter, I've always heard that no one has ever died in Disney. That's probably false, too. You mean in a park? I think there was a rumor that a guy hung himself at the Magic Kingdom, but that sounds like an urban legend to me. I don't know. Didn't a little kid die and get killed by a crocodile in Disney a few years ago? I think he died, and that was on Disney property. I'm almost certain. I mean, you've got that is a lose-lose situation, the whole Disney thing, right? There's nothing to be gained by starting a fight with DeSantis. You couldn't win the fight, and even if you could, let's say they win the fight, the damage has been done. Okay, let's say they win the fight and they keep their internal governance. It still doesn't help their image, and that's the big problem. That's a much bigger problem. Well, there are both big problems, really. DeSantis cannot back down from that. He's absolutely 100%. That is like almost a symbol of his campaign. He's got to go after the woke, and Disney is carrying the woke flag. Now, if Disney wasn't woke, he'd look like a big meanie. He probably wouldn't even be doing it. But what are you going to do? It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. Iger's a moron for starting that, or who started the fight. I guess DeSantis did technically, but Iger should have came in and kissed abandoned all the woke stuff, at least outwardly. And he tried to do this thing where he said, well, we're not going to do as much. And I think he put out the word, like, keep it on the QT, but I don't think that worked. And I don't think that's going to work for his crazy employees either. These people went on strike about DeSantis's law to keep transgender stuff out of K to 3. K to 3. I mean, if you can't agree that maybe K to 3 is a little too early to start talking about dildos, I think you got a real problem. I think you got a real problem. And I can't even believe these conversations we're having, quite frankly. Marshall, I heard Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny don't do well. They will get rid of Kathleen Kennedy before her contract ends. That's the rumor. It has to make $900 million just to break even. It costs $300 million. And if it doesn't make at least $900 million, Kathleen Kennedy's done. I don't think it can. I don't think it can make that kind of money. Now, opening day might do $100 million in the States, maybe 150 internationally. You know, might do 400 million, 500 million, maybe. But I think even that's up in the air. Alex, but I think that's my broader point. Disney always waters down stories to make them appeal to the lowest common denominator. The latest woke takes simply Disney pandering to its audience, in quotes. What is the lowest common denominator? I wish they would go back to that, because I don't think the woke are the lowest common denominator. They are morons that are a tiny minority of morons. They're the morons who decided politics was was going to be their bag. Gender politics, race politics, and communism. They're not useful idiots. They're useful woke tards. And there's just a too small amount of them. They are amplified by 1,000-fold by the media. That's why they're so mad about Twitter going to Elon Musk, because that was a great platform for them to magnify their reach, because they could do it with those bots all day long and nobody would know the difference. There's still, I think, a ton of bots on Twitter, but not nearly as many as before. And now it looks like, oh, wait a minute. A lot of these people, they're not bashing me about my politics. Well, maybe I'm a little more right-wing than I thought I was. So Twitter is like turning a corner. And it's weird, too, because Hollywood, I kept screaming about how Hollywood kept listening to Twitter. They still shouldn't listen to Twitter. But Twitter now is a slightly better gauge of the general populace than it was before, because at least it's not openly being censored now. Now it's kind of being censored. It's kind of hard to tell at the moment. But, yeah, I wish they'd go back to the lowest common denominator. But their version of the lowest common denominator now is some woke moron with pink hair. It's kind of pertinent to the change that they did. The initial audience for a movie, when you talked about the demo that TV shows and movies would go for, would be the 18 to 35 male demo. The reason that is because the thinking was the males from 18 to 35 make the entertainment purchasing decisions. They're dating, in other words, right? So you're 18 to 35 and you're dating someone, you're taking them to movies. Maybe you're watching TV with them, but mostly about the movies. Marshall, are you planning on seeing the film in theaters? Dial of Destiny? I wouldn't give Disney one thin dime. If I could somehow get in for free, I might say it, but I don't even think I want to say it. I mean, it's going to be brutal. I only go to see movies like I eat my ice cream. I want to know it's going to be awesome. The only movie I want to see right now is The Machine, starring Burt Kirshner, because that looks good. Although I'm a little hesitant because Mark Hamill won't stay off of Twitter. And I can't stand his hot takes. Ugh. His hot takes on the Ukraine make me go nuts. But, now I derailed myself. So, there, I derailed myself. I forgot my point. Anyhow, talking about Disney, what they should do moving forward is get rid of the woke. They won't do that. They're stuck in this woke tardetry, and you've got their tens of followers, however many there are. They're amplified, so there's not that many, but they're just incredibly vocal. So imagine like you're one person, not even your friend, but someone in your circle who's annoying. They're always on the internet. They're always on Facebook and Twitter, and they're constantly talking about everything and constantly getting political. And whenever you're in a circle of your friends, they're the first one to make a big deal about, oh, you eat too much red meat, and that's bad for the climate, and you should be vegan. And then they say stuff, everything's sexist and patriarchal, and you ought to support Black Lives Matter. I mean, they're just non-stop. That's the kind of person, audience-wise, Disney is wooing. Oh, now I remember my point. So, the old demo was 18 to 35, and it was male, because they make the decisions about entertainment. That was the perception. The new demo, according to my sources, people I talk to, the new demo is something like, and this is what I heard, lesbians from like 22 to 40. And that is the new demo. So that explains a lot of their decisions, right? at least from their perceptions as incredibly racist leftists. So, why do we have cartoon after cartoon where the female character gets all butched up, takes over the show, shaves half to her head, and becomes the next He-Man? It's because people in Hollywood think that's what lesbians want to see. They think lesbians are dying to see themselves in these shows as butch women with bad haircuts. Now, is any of that true? I think that they believe it's true, and I think there is, as Ethan Van Sciver said a few days ago, there is an idea that men watch entertainment different from women, in that men like to see other people do stuff, whereas women, because the men like to fantasize to be Batman, the women want to see them as Batman. They want to see themselves in everything. It's a little more self-centered. So to some extent, they are taking this female approach. That's why there's so many self-inserts in this woke world. Many, many self-inserts of these women inserting themselves or a character just like them into these stories. That's why you get Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel. She was a self-insert, the Marvel exec, I forget her name. It was basically a younger version of her with superpowers. So this is the problem, partly with Disney and all the studios, even outside the woke, because they're trying to gear things towards women now. And that's the wrong way to go. And I'll tell you why. Because women, in my opinion, the way they want things is their priority list is different in their head. A woman's priority is not even to go see the movie, but to participate in the activities that their spouse wants to be a part of. So their primary goal is their relationship. So when they go see a movie with their boyfriend or girlfriend even, their primary goal is not to see the movie, but to support their SO in seeing the movie. That's their primary goal. They don't care about the movie. They just want to make sure their spouse has a good time. They if they have a good time too, that's a bonus, but their primary goal is to make sure you have a good time, because they have this nurturing instinct about them. And so when they watch a movie, so when the girls go out to see a movie, that's different. And they want to see a movie about the stuff they like, which, again, relationships. So that's why they see stuff about romance, because they want to, again, see themselves in it, but they also want to see ideas for their relationship. Marshall, I like Harrison Ford, but it is hard for me to seeing 80-year-old man doing stunts. I don't think people really hype for that, but I could be wrong. No, I think you're right on the money. He is too old. He's just too old. Now, you could have put him in an Indiana Jones movie. And I think I started to say before, in another video, what I would have done if I wrote Indiana Jones was, you have to double down. Because your fans don't always accept change. So, the first three movies, great. Fourth movie, you introduce Mutt, his son. Everybody hates him. You can't drop him. He's part of the continuity. They had to go forward with Mutt. Now, you could recast him. Cast an older actor, pretend like Shia LaBeouf was just the youthful version of Mutt, and then make him the new Indiana Jones. That's what I would have done. But Helena, God, it's such a self-insert. For who? For who? What women what women are sitting around going, "Oh, I can't wait to see the new Indiana Jones movie and what and all the stunts." They don't care about that. Alex, the lowest common denominator is not a set of people per se, but the attitudes that people can share. Nice is a nasty word, and niceness is what Disney venerates. In the book, Peter Pan was a killer. Oh, and JEC is here. Hi, hi, hi. JEC, where you been, man? You missed me on the Rumble rant. You missed me. Yes, I believe you're right on that. Peter Pan was a killer. Well, but again, at that time they were making movies for kids, and they probably said, "Well, we can't have Peter Pan kill anybody, so we'll just rewrite that part." At this point, they've made so many Peter Pan movies. I don't think you'll ever see a real one for like 20 years. Maybe if they set it aside and don't touch it for 20 years, you could come back with a real quote-unquote Peter Pan if the society gets a little more mature. I would like to see a real one, but... John Adams. Boys pick up a Batman action figure and they play as Batman in the scenario. Girls pick up a Barbie doll and play as themselves. Yes. In the Barbie scenario. Yes. JC. Took a nap. Good for you. I'm glad you're all rested. Yes. You're right, John. I was trying to think how Ethan Van Sciver worded it exactly. I think there was a Lego, a study of Legos, and that was the impetus for the thought process there. But I think it's similar with movies. Women want to go see Sex in the City because it's about relationships, who's sleeping with who, how they do things, not why they do things, not to accomplish anything, but who ends up with who. Guys want to see things accomplished. They want to see something happen. If nothing happens in a movie, but it's all about relationships, I think women can like that movie. They can. That's why Elizabeth Banks made Charlie's Angels the girliest movie ever. They had a scene. Oh, it's makeover time. And, there's a big scene with clothes and shoes. And she thought that would be a good thing. Probably because she's a woman, and she thought, well, this seems cool to me. I mean, why wouldn't she think that way? I, of course, think in a different way as a man. I think, what would be cool? Somebody comes in with a machine gun and just starts machine gunning the shoe store, and the girls are dodging and they're shooting back, and because that's what men want to see in a movie. If someone's not shot in the face in the first 10 minutes, count me out. So yeah, in a Indiana Jones sequel, I would have doubled down with Mutt and put him back in a damn movie. And but in Hollywood, they weren't going to do that, and they had this agenda. No, we're going to make a new Indiana Jones, and she is going to be the new Indiana Jones, as if Indiana Jones is a mantle and not a person. And it's just the dumbest thing ever. It's an ego-driven mad woman would think of that. In my view, Kathleen Kennedy is probably an ego-driven mad woman. You probably couldn't even have this conversation with her without her going, get out, get out. I'd be fired in less than a second if I had to talk to Kathleen Kennedy in those terms, right? I'd just be like, Kathleen, you can't get rid of Indiana Jones. Nobody wants to see, we want to see his son. We want to see his. Now, you could have made it his grandson, right? You could have had an older Shia LaBeouf, and he's got a kid, who's now like, I don't know, 14, 15, and he's just like his grandpa, and grandpa teaches him the ways, and he's like crazy. That would have been a cool movie too, but no, not going to get that kind of send-off. Marshall, I don't think the Marvels will be a billion-dollar movie, but John Camps thinks so. John Camps, I believe, or John Campea. I think John Campea is extremely wrong. $1 billion for the Marvels? No, that's going to be. They'll be lucky to crack 400 million. I think. They might be lucky to crack 200 million with that movie. That is an absolute dumpster fire of a movie. And I'll get to why in a sec. Alex, yes, you are right. They were making movies for kids based off of stories aimed at kids. I grew up with the tales of Hansel and Gretel, with children being eaten by a witch. Children like robust stories. I agree. I agree. But the dullards in Hollywood, they wouldn't know how to portray that in a way that kids could process. And everybody's too sensitive anyway. Not me, though. And not my books. I just tell people, I don't know what anybody's offended by. You read it. If you want your kid to read it, yeah, you read it first. And they go, oh, okay. And they probably don't read it and hand it to their kid. I don't know. But getting back to the Marvels. Yeah, Marvels. Look, you've got 3 characters running this show. You've got Captain Marvel and with Brie Larson. Brie Larson, the nerds hate Brie Larson. They hate her with a burning passion of a multi-sun planet. They just hate her. She made fun of them. She said terrible things about the fan base. They hate her. So, this is why they put 2 more characters in the movie and call it the Marvels instead of Captain Marvel 2. If she hadn't alienated the fan base, she'd be coming off a $1 billion movie, easily cruising to 500 million. Easily. But because she cheesed off the fan base as hard as possible and is probably one of the least liked members of the MCU cast, in my view, they put her in a movie with 2 other characters that are Marvel related and called the movie The Marvels, so they could spread it out and hopefully get some people to watch the damn thing, right? So who's this movie anchored on? Well, Monica Rambeau. And you might go, who? And you'd be right to do that, because Monica Rambeau was the original second Captain Marvel in the comics. If the woke idiots had done any research in comics, they probably would have started with her. But instead, they listened to the woke idiots currently running Marvel Comics, and they put Carol Danvers up, who's a terrible character. Monica Rambeau, at least, was kind of an okay character back in the 80s. She was Captain Marvel, but she was the second Captain Marvel. Anyhow, they renamed her Photon, and she's one of the Marvels. And then you've got Ms. Marvel, who's, I think, one of the lowest, if not the lowest rated show on Disney Plus. No one likes this character. They had to change her powers for the TV show because it didn't translate. I mean, you couldn't get a worse character to throw into a movie. A major motion picture that's supposed to bring you millions of dollars. Nobody wants to see these clowns. Who is this movie for? Who is this for? I saw one little girl at a comic book convention one time dressed as Marvel. That little girl will go to the movies, I'm sure. Her dad will take her to the movies and they'll have a good time. I think they'll have a good time because they'll probably be the only people in the damn theater. John Adams, I really wish they passed the torch to Short Round. I didn't think of that. Indiana could have sent him to college and he got his archaeology degree. That's a good idea. I like that pitch a lot. And they could have gotten a woke Indiana Jones. There you go. Oh, now Indiana Jones is Asian, but it's Short Round. I mean, could have come up with like an adventurer name for him, right? You have to come up with another name, and this is what Hollywood can't do. Oh, well, but we own Indiana Jones. Yeah, but you need a new name. Yeah, we'll call him Indiana Jones. You can't call him Indiana Jones. There's only one Indiana Jones. No, there could be 2. That's the kind of discussions, you just banging your head against the table while the Hollywood executives talk. Alex, it's a shame because Ms. Larson is hot, in my opinion, but she is the wrong quadrant of crazy hot graph. I agree she is hot, but she is, to me, so crazy I almost wouldn't have sex with her. It would be a close call for me. That would be a close call. And you're looking at a guy who usually likes really crazy hot chicks. She is God, she is annoying. Watch her. I forget what car it was. She did commercials for this car company. God, even those were annoying. Her YouTube channel, pointless. Another attempt by Hollywood to co-opt YouTube. The Brie Larson channel. Oh, we're going to talk about so many things. No, you're not, because you're a busy actress. You don't have time to make YouTube videos. I barely have time to do it, and I'm no one. I know you don't have time to make YouTube videos. It's not something you can get your assistant to do and then sign off on. You have to do it. Ugh. Alex, stick a sock in her mouth. Too far. Well, again, you know, she is probably a nice person in real life. Who knows? You know, everybody in Hollywood is such a phony. It could all be an act. She could be a relatively down-to-earth person, but she went down this path, and now she's stuck with it. Because maybe she made promises to her agent and the people who work underneath her that she would do this, and she thinks, well, if I don't do this, I'll look like an idiot. And so she's stuck. She's stuck with her persona, I guess. JC, she is an ice queen. Yeah, it's kind of what's hot about her. If you're gonna have sex with her, that would kind of be the hot part, because it would be a little intense. Marshall, I think they believe Ms. Marvel will help them put butts in the seats because the teenager actress. Your thoughts? They're wrong, because it didn't work with Disney Plus, and it didn't work with Shang-Chi. Like, they made Shang-Chi because, we got a Chinese character, we'll make a whole Chinese movie and send it to China and we'll make so much money. How'd that work out? The Chinese wouldn't even air the damn thing in their country. What are you going to do about Ms. Marvel? You're going to release it in India and expect the Indian populace to come running? I wouldn't hold your breath. Even though they put a musical number in it, like an Indian movie, they're trying to make Indian movies. And I don't think they have any idea what they're doing. I've watched a few Indian movies. Or, I just watched the trailer for, it's called the Buddy Movie. And it's it's made in Telugu, which is a language in India. So it's not just Bollywood. There's like 11 Bollywoods. They're all different letters. This is Tollywood. And you remember Ted. It's a version of Ted, only there's an insane amount of action in it, and it looks totally badass. I kind of want to see it, but I don't think there's a chance in hell Indian audiences will connect with Ms. Marvel, Monica Rambeau, and Ms. Marvel. If they were to connect, it would have happened with the Disney Plus show. And then they'd be making Ms. Marvel. They wouldn't even have brought in Brie Larson. I guess maybe they brought her in for a cameo or something. But there's no way that's gonna work. Maybe it gives them a little bit of a bump. Oh, there's South Asian girl in it. Maybe, but the Indian movies are different. They are different. And you can't make a full-on Indian movie and expect it to play well in the States. It's going to be weird. It's going to be odd. Why is everyone singing? People in the States, they're not used to halfway through a movie somebody breaking out in a song. Now, if it's a musical, that's different. But Indian movies, like, you're watching a movie and then suddenly, music. What is happening? Why is there a big dance number here? I thought I was watching a movie. I thought I was watching a story, and now it's a musical. When did that happen? I guarantee you they won't put that many musical numbers in it. And it's just a superhero movie. It's not supposed to have musical numbers in it at all. And if you're gonna do it, you'd make it more like the Christmas special from Guardians of the Galaxy, which had like a band in it. It had one song. It was very pertinent to what happened. I can only imagine the girly song they're going to have in this movie. It's going to be a nightmare. Marshall, you going to see The Flash for the OG? Are you going to see the Flash for the Michael Keaton Batman? Okay. Controversial take. I don't think Michael Keaton was a very good Batman back in '89. However, old Batman, he seems to be much better at it. I like the clips of him, but I cannot support Ezra Miller. However, I have HBO Max. So I will be seeing it for free when it hits HBO Max in, I don't know, a month. Because I don't think it's going to do that good either. Part of it is superhero fatigue is real. They're releasing too many of these damn movies. I mean, Guardians, people kind of like those characters, and the movie did okay. It didn't do $1 billion though. So it's all, they've run out of room. And in fact, I think they may be trying to tank the Marvels, or they looked at it and said, oh, this movie's going to tank. We can't save it. So let's use it as an excuse to cancel the Marvel Universe. So if that movie tanks, then maybe Iger can turn around and say to everybody, listen, we have to completely redo the Marvel Universe now. We got to put it on hold and come out with a different way of doing things. And then they'll come out with superhero movies, but it'll be more like kind of in the 80s and 90s when they put out superhero movies, but they weren't. Like Dolph Lundgren's The Punisher movie, if you've ever seen that. They didn't even put him in the shirt. And a few others they did. You could mistake them for a, quote, other movie. Blade kind of was that way. It was it was sort of a superhero movie, but sort of not. It was really more of a vampire hunter movie than you could see Blade existing on his own, essentially. That's where I think they're leaning towards, and possibly whatever new horrible trend takes over Hollywood, possibly video game movies. Alex, Disney is like a chancer trying to make it in the antiques trade. Buy something valuable, restore it badly, then try to flog it. Not only is the item devalued, but the original fascination is broken. Wow. That's a good take. Yes. Yes. Yeah, it's weird. Because all they really had to do, imagine you spend $4 billion on Star Wars. It's a no-brainer to make a sequel with Han, Luke, and Leia, running things and interacting and having a great time. Like, that's a no-brainer. Everybody wanted to see, the big payoff. Han and Leia living on a planet, running things, and it's hilarious. Like, Han has, he's so rich, he has his own cantina where, he can't lose at cards or something. Like, no matter what gambling, thing he does, he always wins, kind of thing. And it's like a joke to him, and he gives the money back, and he just screws around with people because he's just so rich and successful. Like, we wanted to see successful Han. We didn't want to see Han be murdered. Nobody wanted to see that. No one asked for it. It's a dumb idea. We wanted to see Luke training the new Jedi, and by this time, he's got a whole army of Jedis, and they're cool like him. And you could have introduced all your rainbow collective of diversity, and they could all be different races or whatever. Who cares? They would all been new characters. And then Leia raising the kids or whatever, or doing princess things, run the government. You could have had it all, and it could have been fun. But instead, it's terrible. Marshall, yes, I heard the Flash movie not tracking well. I'm not surprised. Yeah. I mean, who wants to support Ezra Miller at this point? I had the solution. I know, it's controversial, but you deep fake Elliot Page's face over Ezra Miller. You defuse the woke time bomb. In other words, Ezra can't complain because it's another trans actor. So he can't pull the old, but I'm trans or I'm non-binary and you're just prejudiced. Can't pull it because you replaced him with Elliot Page. Elliot Page looks enough like him that it would have worked, I think. And Elliot can act. She can act. And if you did it as a deep fake, it would really be Ezra's acting, so who cares? You would have just replaced her voice. You just would have done it. The computer would have done all the work. How do you feel about the writer's strike? I have very conflicting views on the writer's strike. Because in the past, I very much supported the writers. I even bought a shirt and took a picture of myself in solidarity with the writers. And now I just look at them and they're such a-holes to me now. The thing that encapsulates it for me is when I saw the video of the writers on strike in LA and they're walking by homeless people. We want money. We want, oh, excuse me, bum. We want money. I mean, like, how does that look? How does that look? You have homeless people living in the street, and you, a Hollywood writer, probably some of them very well off, some of them not. I'm sure the ones that are not well off, they might not be working, but they ain't on the picket line. They're probably at their second job trying to go, I need to make some kind of money here. So, and to me, I spent years trying to get into the union, never worked, couldn't get in. You know, it's like impossible to get in unless you know someone. I had, for one brief shining moment, I was kind of close, but it didn't work out. And now I just look at them and the work they've done. It's like, who are we protecting? And what a dumb time to strike. The worst possible time. We're in the midst of a recession. Now you want to negotiate with the studios? Now they can just look back at you and go, oh, we're in a recession. We don't have the money. It's everything wrong with Hollywood is in this strike. I hope they settle it. I hope they get something better for the streaming, but the money's going out of streaming too. So why did you wait? Why did you wait? Maybe strike last year, 2 years ago? I just don't get these people. It confounds me. JC, you make the fan hate even worse casting a 4'10" woman pretending to be a man. Are they mad at Ezra because he's non-binary? Or are they mad at him for his behavior? Elliot Page, while I think Elliot's a wackadoo, Elliot hasn't done anything like that I'm aware of. I mean, you could have cast somebody else. You could have taken the original Flash. Not the original one, the guy from the CW. Put him in there. That would have been, the fans would have loved that. But they'll never do that. The only reason I say Elliot Page, that's someone they could see maybe leading a movie. She led a movie before. They would get the woke points. That's why I suggested. If I had my druthers, I would pick the CW Flash. I would spin in all the CW guys that I could, because those two universes should have connected. They should have connected all along. Would have been great, because you could already be, you could have thrown in Green Arrow and everybody else. The only thing I want to see out of the new Flash movie is I want to see the Nicolas Cage scene, which I'm sure will be on YouTube 10 minutes after it's in studio in theaters. So it's the fan hate for Ezra Miller is Ezra Miller. He got off too easy, I think. Behavior, says JC, but they'll hate Elliot if you try to force her as an action star. It's infuriating, stupid on the face of it. But it wouldn't even be her body. But it's too late. They did what they did. I mean, the point is moot at this point anyway. I don't know. The thing to do would have been to shut down the movie, or just recast Ezra. Just recast him. recast the CW guy and go forward. I mean, that would have been ideal, but they had already canceled Black Girl. I almost said Batgirl, so they already dropped $90 million down a rat hole. They couldn't do it with 2 movies. They just couldn't. They couldn't make that much of a write-off, and I assume Batgirl's just a big write-off for them. They decided they needed to save Ezra. I don't know. I mean, deepfake anybody on his face. Deepfake, I don't know, Bruce Willis. he can't do the work anymore, but you already got the lines recorded. Deepfake can do anything. JC. People are done with this trans stuff. No one will want kids to go see this thing. Well, I hope, because I'd love to see the Flash tank. I'd love to see the Flash tank, and then in a week it's on HBO Plus, and then maybe I could just zoom through it and see some of the Michael Keaton stuff. But I think they have a short memory for that stuff too. And a lot of people, I don't even think they know about necessary Ezra Miller's weird non-binary trans stuff, whatever the hell he's doing. I don't think they know a tremendous amount about it, because they've spent a lot of time keeping him out of the news as much as possible. I think they know more about the crimes than, him saying stuff. But either way, I wouldn't bring my kids to go see any of that stuff now. I wouldn't want to support it. I just don't want to support Ezra Miller, is what it boils down to. I don't want to support Ezra Miller. I don't want to support Disney. I've been on the Disney. I was boycotting Disney up until the Marvel movies started. When the Marvel movies started, I went, oh, these are so good, I have to go see them. And then now I'm back on boycott Disney, basically. Marshall, your thoughts on James Gunn reboot the whole DCU? I'll get back to that in a sec. JC, I think it'll do the same as Black Adam, even with Batman. I don't know. I think it'll do a little better than that, but we'll see. Because they are pushing Michael Keaton hard. But my thoughts on James Gunn rebooted the whole DCU. It's not the smartest move, but it's a smart move. I like James Gunn. I think he does good work. I think they ought to keep him off of Twitter and have him stop answering fanboy questions. Number one. Beyond that, he's probably got a ton of limitations, right? They probably told him some things that they want, some things he has to do, and some things he can't do. And so, under those parameters, he's probably doing pretty good. He's a decent director. He's a decent idea guy. He's a good script guy. And I think he'll do well. But we got to get past the Flash before that really happens. My only qualm is I would love to see the Robert Pattinson Batman roll into the DCU. I would like to see it all come together, but that's not going to happen. So first they would not make multiple Batman things. Now they're going to do 2 different Batman. They're going to have Batman in the DCU and Batman Robert Pattinson, which I think is dumb, but we'll see. Alex Ogle. Ezra Miller was great in The Stand as Trash Can Man. He was just playing himself, destroying the world while jerking himself off to it. That sounds like Ezra Miller. I saw him in, or I saw the clips of, there's this movie. It's a bunch of girls. They do some sort of weird, it's part heist movie, but part kind of revenge. And Ezra Miller's the bad guy in it, leading, and get this, he's leading some sort of patriarchal group of misogynist guys or racist guys, I'm not sure. They're real authoritarian. And he's the bad guy, and the girls take him down. And he's just awful in it. But he is himself. He's just weird. I don't know why Hollywood gets totally hypnotized by certain actors, and they just won't stop pushing them. Dwayne The Rock Johnson was one of those actors. Dwayne The Rock Johnson was just in everything. Hollywood was utterly obsessed with him and just kept putting him in everything. They gave him everything he wanted. It's crazy. And then this article just came out recently. And it's so funny, but it's so true. Dwayne The Rock Johnson has been in movies for 20 years and has nothing to show for it. And I just thought, damn, that's so friggin' true. It's so true. All of his movies are forgettable, even the halfway decent ones. He's just forgettable because he's just generic action guy. And I just saw a clip of him while he was wrestling, doing some, I don't know, it was a big group of wrestlers and they were all saying stuff to each other. And he was better as an actor in that than I've seen him in any movie. It's just amazing. Black Adam was probably the one character they could have made work if they had had a decent script and director. But the first thing I would have done was I would say, oh, you got to have hair in this. You got to have the Black Adam hair. You can't be bald. And I don't know. He seemed to be throwing his weight around, which hurt his career, and now he's on the second tier trying to get back. So I think he's done for the most part. I think you'll keep seeing him, but not like before. Now he's going back into his greatest hits, which again he doesn't really have. So what does he go back to? He goes right back to Fast X, like one of the few successful things he's been in that has endured. And it's not because of him, but he was in it. So he's back on Fast X. What else could he do? Another Scorpion King movie? I don't know. Alex, oh come on, he was great in he was in Rampage. Oh God, Rampage! What a crazy movie. It was based on a video game I love, by the way. It's a video game where you play like Godzilla and King Kong and you smash the buildings and eat people. It's hilarious. But it shouldn't have been made into a movie. God, no. There was no movie. There was no story to it. It was dumb for even a video game. It was hilarious, but how do you turn that into a video game? It's like these guys who try to turn Pac-Man into a video game. There's no story in Pac-Man. Alex, they didn't even adapt the video game well in that bloody film. I can imagine. What is there to adapt? There's a bunch of monsters eating people. Oh, I guess I'll stop them. That's not what the video game even does. You're the monster. I mean, that's just nuts. This is Hollywood. They have a giant folder full of IPs, and they just go through them and say, oh, we'll make this movie. Was this popular? And some assistant in the office goes, well, yeah, I remember that. Oh, okay, we'll greenlight this then. Go do some research. I'm going to lunch. I mean, these guys they're that tuned out, in my view. One of the guys my friend worked for, he once bought 3 giant widescreen TVs and put them in his office so he wouldn't have to turn his head while watching TV. That's the sort of guys that are, working in Hollywood. Oh, man, I got a cuticle that I think I've pulled too hard. Ooh. So, it's just mind-boggling what Hollywood does. But let's get into some numbers because I've been on this page far too long. Let's shake things up and look at some box office. First up, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse doing pretty well. 120 million. Only 88 million worldwide. That's interesting. But not surprising. Let's see if it opened in China yet. It did. 120,000 in China. Well, I guess the numbers really aren't in yet. And 95,000 in Finland. Well, I don't think it'll do well in China in general. We don't have all the numbers here, obviously. Have to wait another day, I guess. But there's just so many people in China. I assume most of this 88 million is from China, but you never know. Sometimes a country like Mexico goes hog wild on a movie like this. Um, but it did open in most of Europe, it looks like. Oh, in South Africa too. Hmm. So we'll see how it does, or how that splits out. Um, Alex, it should have been a Japanese monster movie, Rampage. Yeah, yeah, that would have worked. It could have been a parody of those movies, you know. That's always fun. But Dwayne the Rock Johnson doing comedy, I don't know. JC, China don't like black people. They don't want to see a black Spider-Man. Yep, that's true. But the question is, see this movie poster? I bet it wasn't this movie poster that went over there. I bet this movie poster had Miles Morales in the Spider-Man uniform. And then maybe it did like Black Panther. Like they hid the lead character. Or they just put Spider-Man on. It's not even... I guess it is about Miles Morales, but the other Spider-Man are in it. I guarantee you they used a different poster in China. Not that one. So that's about 208 million worldwide. So what does this movie do? I don't know. Maybe 400 million. I hear it's not great. The first one I heard was good. I think it had a lot of payoffs with an older Peter Parker, but yeah, I don't think this is going to do gangbusters, but it's doing better than Little Mermaid on her second week. Down 58%. Excuse me. Running out of iced tea. Down 58% from last week. So we're at 326 million worldwide. That sounds like it's running out of gas. So what does this go to? So if we're doing 40 million this week, it's likely we'll be lucky to do 20 million next week, and maybe 15 million for international, so maybe another 35. So maybe this squeaks over 400 million. That doesn't seem very good, but it probably made money, and they'll probably make money on the soundtrack because Halle Berry will release a soundtrack. I don't know. They used to make money on those things. I don't know quite how they work anymore. Do they release CDs? I guess they do still. Or is it just all download? $1 a song. I guess it could be some package where you get the movie and the soundtrack or something like that. Premiering at number 3, The Boogeyman. This is a Stephen King movie of sorts. I think it's based on a short story. 12 million domestic, 7 million international, 20 million even worldwide. I mean, it's a horror movie, so horror movies always do well in that they always make money, but they never make a lot of money because you make them on the cheap. But was this movie cheap? I don't know. Maybe. I don't think it would be that cheap though. So 20 million. I guess it'll cruise to 40 or 50 million. Probably that's money. I don't know, with the advertising, it'd be a little tight. JC, it's how many times people stream the song from the soundtrack. No money unless it's a huge hit. I have a friend who, says JC, I have a friend who did a cover of the Spider-Man theme way back in the day. He licensed it for a song. He'd done a song about the Jersey Devil for me, and we put it on a CD, and he said, oh, we need a B-side. I'm going to do a cover of Spider-Man. I said, oh, yeah, that'll be cool. And, the old Spider-Man. And he got it for nothing. Like, the licensing was nothing. And, but now it's been downloaded millions of times. And he's He's not raking it in, but he's making a little money on it, so it's kind of cool. Well, they should make some money on Haley Bailey. She is a popular singer. I mean, popular enough. They got to make some money on that. So it'll be some sort of exclusive thing, I assume. And maybe it'll be a little more expensive because Bailey fans will pay for that. And they make their money. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 drops 51% in its 5th week. This movie's basically already made its money. We're at $780 million. That did decently. It's not going to make $1 billion, but Chris Pratt, he had a good month. He had a good month. His box office is nice. His box office is... They ain't getting rid of Chris Pratt. They're going to put up with more of his, Gadsden flag T-shirts and going to church. They ain't going to say nothing to Chris Pratt. Not with those numbers. Nah. Marshall, Little Mermaid needs to make $700 to $800 million to break even, but I think that's going to happen. Oh, wait a minute. Let me go back. $700 to $800 million? I don't think it needs to make that much, but nah, it ain't going to break that. I don't think it'll break $700 million. Not at this rate. Let's see. International. Yeah, look at China. It only made $3.5 million. That's where all the money is. Mexico, $8 million. UK, $8.5 million. That's it, basically. South Korea did bigger box office than China. When China doesn't see your movie, you're effed. In Disney's case, I think. I don't know what they were thinking. Were they thinking like, well, the Chinese owe us a solid after shooting a movie near the concentration camp? So no, I don't think that's going to make it. We're in the 2nd week. It's dropped 58%. It ain't coming back. So drops another 50% next week. It's done. It'll be lucky to crack 400 million. So that's going to be a loser. Number 5, Fast X, in its 3rd week, drops from number 2, 9.2 million. Dropping out of theaters as well. Did great internationally. 603? I don't know. This movie cost a lot of money to make. But China's got no problem with it at $124 million. So, yeah, Mexico, man. Mexico, a lot of people seeing the movies in Mexico. 28 million. Brazil, 16 million. Japan, 15 million. Interesting. What's a car country? France. Oh, yeah, France is on there. 14.5 million for the Grand Prix. And the UK, really a car culture. Not so much India, I wouldn't expect. I mean, they have cars, but it doesn't feel like a car culture in India. Yeah. Number 6, Super Mario Bros. 3.3 million. Still hanging in there. Still making some bank. And it's in its 9th week. 1.3 billion. Cracked 1.3. Marshall, I don't think that's going to happen. I agree. 1.3. So Chris Pratt has added $2 billion to his box office. They used to have a chart in IMDb. I don't think they have it anymore, where they would just have a celebrity and then all the movies he was in, and they would chart all their box office over the years. They may still have it somewhere. I don't know where it is now. I thought that was the coolest chart ever, because you'd see Schwarzenegger and then you'd see all his movies and the lines would go up and down with each movie. Man, Pratt's would be like, whoop, 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 whoop. Yeah. And Tom Cruise had to work his A off to get a $1 billion movie. He must be so jealous of Pratt, because Pratt, he's got that. Did Jurassic Park make $1 billion? I think one of them did, right? I think at least one of them did, if not two of them. And he got it before Cruise. Cruise has made way more movies. What else? I think that's about it in the $1 billion range. Am I forgetting something? Oh, maybe the first Guardians. That probably made $1 billion. It's going to be a long time before Disney ushers in another era of $1 billion movies, I think. Number 7, About My Father. This movie's hanging on. Second week, 2.1 million. Oof, not doing well internationally. Jesus. 8.8 million. Wow. International. Where did they show it? Had to be shown. How are you not showing this in Italy? It's about an Italian American and his father. How are you not showing this in Italy? That's nuts. Is it going to open in Italy? It's not even listed as opening in Italy. Hasn't opened in a bunch of other places. That'd be the one market I would go, you have to open this in Italy. Croatia? Romania? Marshall, it's a flop. It might make money on Disney Plus and DVDs and Blu-ray. I kind of doubt it. DVD and Blu-ray sales are nothing anymore. Nobody cares about that anymore. They don't even list it on a lot of movies. Disney Plus, I don't think anybody's going to give a crap because, again, it's also about the way, and I'll say it again, women watch things. Why are women now suddenly into Star Wars, Marvel, and all that crap? Why? Back in the 70s and 80s, Marshall, and you couldn't get a girl into that crap if you paid her. Hey, you want to go to play Dungeons and Dragons with me and the guys? Ew, no. What are you, insane? Hey, you want to go see Star Wars? No, nerd. Get away from me. Hey, you want to read Spider-Man? No. Now they all love it. Why? Why do they love it? It has nothing to do with them actually liking it, in my opinion. It has everything to do with Instagram, Facebook. They like things because they're popular. And by liking things that are popular, they get validation in imaginary internet points, and they look cool. It's cool to like all that stuff. So they like it for now until it doesn't become popular. And then most of them will abandon it, except the girls who like things that people don't like. That's a different group of girls. That's sort of like that's the goth girls, the last contingent of goth girls. Yeah, I like it because everybody hates it. Nikki D is here. Welcome, Nikki D. They push themselves into a really SE business model. It's too hard to evaluate what people are actually buying when it's all fungible. Yeah, I definitely see that. It's also true, I think, the atomization of audiences. So, audiences are so atomized. They have so many choices on so many different levels. It's not like when I was a kid, Star Wars was in the movie theaters for a year and a half. I think almost 2 years, if I'm remembering correctly. At least a year. It was there at least a year. It was so popular, they just kept it in theaters. That would never happen now because people would go, oh, I want to see that movie. I'm going to wait for it to come out on the internet and watch it at home because there's just too many platforms and too many choices. People don't watch shows. I don't watch shows anymore. I watch clips of shows. I don't watch movies. I watch clips of movies. The movie has to be awesome for you to actually get my $14 and go to a movie. It has to really speak to me. And as they keep atomizing audiences, movies will speak to the audience less and less. So when they put out Lord of the Rings, there were a tremendous amount of fantasy movies or TV shows. Now there's a ton of them because Game of Thrones hit big and now everybody wants to capitalize on the fantasy market, and they were a base of fandom that hadn't really been exploited since Lord of the Rings. So Now everybody's doing a fantasy things. Now there's too much fantasy things. They're all split. You got guys watching Rings of Power, House of the Dragon. I'm sure there's other 10 things I can't think of. So you split up the fan base and you compete over it. And eventually something fails. It was the same thing with Star Wars and Star Trek and all the space stuff. You got Star Wars, you got Star Trek, you got The Expanse. You got a whole bunch of others. I mean, you had stuff on the Sci-Fi Channel nobody even watched, and they were cranking it out. It split the audience and atomized them further and further and further. You get more and more specialty as you have to do something new and different. And now, how do you get an audience? Well, you have to strike a chord with people that is so universal that they all go, yes, that relates to me, or I can relate to that, I want to go see that, or whatever. And now people are so divided, they're so atomized in their own little worlds. What person now who's a left-wing lunatic who has bought in to the media's hype over the last 10 years, they don't even live in reality, in my view. And there are some people on the right like that too. They live in Jesus land, and they're super right wing, but it's more leftards than anything. So you've got all these lefties. They've been indoctrinated. If your politics are wrong, if anything's wrong, boom, you're out. You're just not going to see it. They want what they want, and that's it. And they barely watch anything anyway. Half of them are afraid to watch stuff because, again, most of them watch so they can get clout on the internet. Oh, I support the new thing. But they don't actually have to watch it. Marshall, Little Mermaid is the first live action didn't make $1 billion in Renaissance era. I don't know if I'd call this the Renaissance era, but yeah. But this movie should have been released in Italy. My God, what an oversight. Number 8, The Machine. I still want to see this movie. 1.7 million. Not doing well overseas, but again, overseas comedies, yeah, it ain't gonna work. Australia. I could see this movie playing in Australia. Jeez, it only did 66,000. Oh, that's not good. And it opened there. God, it opened there last week. That's not good at all. Australia and New Zealand too. It's going to open. It opened in France, but we don't have any numbers. In the UK too. I don't know. This movie looked fun to me, but I'm a very specific audience. You Hurt My Feelings. I gotta say, this movie didn't look bad. No, wait. I keep confusing this with the Jennifer Lawrence movie. That's No Hard Feelings. No, this is the Julia Louis-Dreyfus movie where she attempts to be Woody Allen. And, yeah, it didn't get an international release. 3 million. I think this is mostly a... Who the hell made this? A24. I think this is an IFC movie, an art house flick. 3 million, I don't think is enough money for money. I don't think that's money. Doesn't sound like enough money. The Machine at 8.7 or 9 million. That's not enough money either. Same thing with About My Father. It's a shame because at least they're comedies. I'm kind of rooting for them. I kind of would like to see some comedies do well. I better get my butt up and go see The Machine at some point. I'm so busy this month. God, I don't know when I'm going to be able to. Kandahar. Is that Gerard Butler movie? Yeah, okay. 4.2 million, 133,000 overseas. And it opened in Russia. How are we exporting movies to Russia again? I thought we had sanctions against Russia. Why are we exporting movies to them? Military movies. Well, some Russians will go see this. I guess it's not illegal there yet. I guess no sanctions on the movies. Hollywood gets a pass. That's so weird. Oh, but it's not doing well. Down 67% in its second week. That movie's done. Oh, that is done. Stick a fork in that movie. And that is not money. What was the total there? Yeah, 4.3 million. That is definitely not money. No way. It had to cost 20 mil. Had to. At least. Evil Dead Rise. In its seventh week. 145 worldwide. It's probably money. It's probably money. Again, I think Sam Raimi knows how to budget. It's probably a reasonable profit. Seventh week. Made 765,000. No, sorry, 233,000. Still in 300 theaters or so. Premiering at number 12, Past Lives from A24. It only showed up in 4 theaters. No idea what this is. Box office hardly counts. I don't know why they do this. Also, premiering The Roundup, No Way Out. Is this that Chop Saki movie? Yes, it is. So this is the heavyset martial artist dude. What's his name? Don Lee. He's pretty good. I saw the trailer for this. I didn't really understand it, so I didn't analyze it. But the stunts look cool. I would see this movie, but I like those movies, so. It's only in 41 theaters, though. But it made $200K. That's not bad for 41 theaters. Yeah, that's not bad, I guess. Book Club, the next chapter, still holding on at 200,000. In its fourth week, down 77%. It's done. Made 25 million. Well, I don't know. I guess that offset a vacation for Diane Keaton, Jane Fonda, and the other old broads in this thing. Sanctuary, 183,000. Still in 200 theaters. This movie, not good. That's not even good for art house numbers. 383,000. I don't know what this movie's about, but apparently no one does. Oosh. Ouch. John Wick Chapter 4. Still making a little bit of money. 181,000. The biggest in the 4 chapters, and yes, they're doing a 5. Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret. Ooh. Well, it's at 20 mil domestic. Whew, it did not do well overseas. Gee, I wonder why. I wonder why a woke movie about a girl growing up didn't do well overseas, didn't connect with foreign audiences. The movie takes place in the... I mean, it was a book written in 1970, so it really takes place in the 60s, the late 60s. Maybe you could argue the 70s. It's like, again, 20, 30 years too late. Nefarious, still out. $40,000, 77 theaters. I saw Gina Carano raving about this movie. All right, we get it. Everybody on the right has been ordered to support this movie. It doesn't even look bad. I'm not knocking it, but it's just annoying when people do that. I hate that. Marshall, good night, friend. I have to go to bed, but I see you next time. Had a good time on your channel tonight. Thanks for tuning in, Marshall. I appreciate it. Oh my God, it's 9 o'clock already. I got to get the stream rolling. I've been up 2 hours. Thank you, Marshall. Have a good night. Blackberry, still in the mix. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Chevalier, and premiering this week is something called Falcon Lake. I don't know what this is at all. No idea from the poster. $61,000. Why even bother to count it? Monica is... Oh, this is that movie about... This is a transgender movie. It's about a transgender woman who goes back to see their dying mother, but she doesn't recognize her. That's not a bad pitch, I'll say. Not a bad pitch, but I mean, it's not very daring in this, in my view, in this time period. Like, You'd done that movie in 2010. Oh my God, people would have lost their damn minds. Now it's like, another trans movie. That's part of the problem with this whole like shoving the trans stuff down your throat. A movie like that gets lost in the shuffle. That movie probably is, it looks okay. It looks like a cool art house movie, but it's probably just going to be lost in the shuffle. When you're putting trans stuff in the Disney movies, who's going to bother to go all the way out to see an art house movie in the middle of nowhere and support some indie person you never heard of? They're just going to go, oh, I can go see a trans movie at Disney. Another reason not to do all this woke stuff. What else did I have? I showed you the fortune. Let's check the trades inside the DGA deal. So apparently they have a tentative deal, but no tie to residuals for the streaming viewership. Wow. That's probably a good idea. The studios didn't do that, considering I think they're lying about their numbers. So they don't want to have to pay out for subscribers they don't even have. I'm sure. But if they got a deal and the writers don't, the writers are effed. Oh, we signed a deal with the directors. Oh, great. So you're going to sign a deal with us? No, we're going to use AI for a while, see how that works. Our stuff sucks anyway. Your stuff sucks, so why should we put out all this money? Let's see. Let Latinos lead. Selena Gomez, Pedro Pascal, and more could make Emmy history. This is what Hollywood talks about. Yeah, you're going down the tubes. Disney is coming apart at the seams. Your industry is falling apart to China. You've got strikes here and there. Oh, but there's going to be Latinas at the Emmys. Oh, you mean that thing nobody will watch? You mean the other awards ceremony no one cares about other than industry people now? And even less people are going to care about it because you're obsessed over race? Chuck Todd will hand NBC's Meet the Press reins to Kristen Welker. I'm sure that people are very excited. All two of your fans, Todd, very excited about that handoff. Who the hell cares? You might as well go do your podcast because you're probably going to have more viewers on that than you had on NBC at this point. Who the hell cares? Meet the Press. Does anybody watch Meet the Press anymore unless you're 100? My parents are old. They don't even watch Meet the Press. Here comes The Flash. As Ezra looks to make a low-profile appearance at the DC Studios film premiere, Warner Brothers is keeping a lid on a secret ending. It ought to be secret for about 14 seconds after it's out in the theaters. Thank God for the internet and rabid fanboys is all I'll say. Because that's another reason I probably won't go see it. I definitely won't go see it. I don't want to spend the money, but I might see it on HBO Max. But then you might ruin the ending for me, and I'd be fine with that. All right, what else is going on? Not a whole lot. Apple's new VR headset will disappoint, but that's okay. No, it is not. What the hell kind of article is that? Oh, this is gonna suck, but you'll like it. No thanks. Sounds not good to me. Here's Super Mario Brothers hitting 1.3 billion globally. Over at Hollywood Reporter, striking writers respond to GGA's tentative deal with studios and streamers. So if the directors don't get a piece of the streaming, you think the writers will? No. With issues including protections against the use of mini rooms and span, which is probably more important in the end of the day, so they don't get overworked for nothing. The WGA still has a number of proposals on the table that are not going to be impacted by the Director Guild's deal. How could it not be impacted? Same headlines. Sex and the City star Evan Handler says Kim Cattrall's cameo and Just Like That is great. Okay. You work on the show. I'm shocked that you say it's great. I love Kim Cattrall. She's starting to show her age a bit, but I still kind of dig her. I thought she was the best part of that show. I used to watch it just for her and all her, hot scenes where she gets plowed. God, I loved her in Big Trouble in Little China. Oh my God. That was her back in the day. Mark Hamill says Michael Keaton's role as Batman encouraged him to audition for Joker. Okay. Finally, Mark Hamill says something that isn't about the Ukraine. Thank God. Over at Deadline, otherwise known as Variety Point 2. More on the strike. Writers react to director's contract deal. WGA takes a stand. DGA reaps the rewards. Ooh, that sounds like you guys aren't really united. You really should just all strike together and be over in about 10 minutes. The Fugees reunite at Philadelphia's Roots Picnic concert for what may be a final performance. I had a friend who did a lot of work on the Roots videos and does them pretty good. He loves reggae. God, he loves reggae. I like it, but he loves it. I'm in a reggae video, by the way, that he shot. If you haven't seen it, I'm sure you could Google it. I don't know if my name's on it, so it might be tough to Google. I totally forget the name now. I have to look it up. Ghost star Utkarsh Ambudkar on his path from rapper to TV series lead and the big opportunity that got away. It's a hit comedy called Ghost. I haven't seen hit comedies on CBS because I'm not 100, but I don't know. Is that any good? Is anybody watching TV? My folks will watch that TV. I don't think they watch that show, but they'll watch CBS, I think. Let's see. What the hell is this? WWE star is not Rep Lauren Boebert's father's second set of tests reveal. In a scenario straight out of Maury Povich, tests have proven that former WWE star Stan Lane is not the father of conservative Congresswoman Lauren Boebert. Lane recently agreed to take a second DNA test to prove that Boebert was not his spawn out of a brief affair with her mother. Huh, interesting. I had no idea that was going on. But I'm not surprised Deadline would cover it. Any chance to take a dig at a Republican. Yeah. All right. Spider-Man, Spider-Verse stuff. Okay. I think we're just about done here. Let's quick check over Abounding in the Comics. Royal Academy of Dramatic Art Chair Marcus Ryder decries Disney's live-action Little Mermaid for ignoring the topic of Caribbean slavery. Yeah, I get it. I get what he's saying, kind of, but I don't know. Seems like a weird thing. It's like, this movie isn't woke enough. They tried to woke it up pretty good. It is a kid's movie. I don't know if you want to go down that path. Just seems like more woke complaining. It just goes to show you can't please these woke tards. Early domestic box office prediction claims Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny will outperform Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. Now they made, what did that make? About 480 million worldwide. So maybe it beats it out the gate, but I kind of have a feeling it goes down faster than Quantumania. The demands on an indie movie, I think, are higher than were on an Ant-Man movie and even a Marvel movie. Shia LaBeouf, speaking of Indiana Jones, update on his conversion to Catholicism. I'm scheduled to be confirmed in 7 months. See, to me, this is going to be the new trend in Hollywood. It's going to be, everybody's going to get super trad, super religious. You're going to have celebrity churches. They're going to be fighting over, oh, yeah, I went to this church. I go to Pratt's church. You go to Pratt's church? Oh, yeah, you got to go. You got to go. Only the hottest people are going to Pratt's church. Oh, yeah. Did you see so-and-so on Sunday? Oh, yeah. That's where it's going. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. And Shia LaBeouf is on top of that. Mel Gibson, Marky Mark Wahlberg, Pratt, of course. They're all gonna flip on a dime. Oh, forget all this transgender LGBTQIA stuff. They're gonna forget that. They're gonna drop it like a hot rock. Elliot Page, her phone will collect dust. It's gonna be gone. Maybe, I'm gonna say 3 years. Maybe after the election's over. Let's see. Is there anything else? Well, there's this weird report. Tom Cruise is pretty pissed that Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer will bump Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 from IMAX theaters. I guess. That's a weird thing to be pissed about, but why can't they just play it in both? Like, why can't they just play both of them? Like, in one theater, in the other? I mean, it's a lot of IMAX now. And I think that's about it. Oh, I'll end on this. Taika Waititi claims he's stuck on the middle part of his Star Wars script. Yeah. So, like, I'd be done that script in about 10 days, I think. A Star Wars script? Oh, man, I already got the whole pitch. But, yeah, I mean, he's a talented guy. I really think he's talented, but he should not be directing Star Wars. This guy could lead us back to comedy if he really wanted to, and if the studio would let him. Oh, he'd be good at it if you could get him away from the woke stuff. In between, I think, banging 2 women at the same time. That's the rumor. He's in a throuple. You know, whatever. But that he's stuck in the middle of this. See, this is why these guys should not go on podcasts, because you drop something like this, it looks bad to me. Like, imagine you're an executive, you hear, oh, he just said he's stuck on a Star Wars script. Let's bring in another guy. That would be my reaction. Bring in a real screenwriter to do it. And then, you know, he'd have to deal with that. Although it's probably in his contract he gets to write it or whatever. All right. Let's wrap it up here, because I've gone on too long as normal. But, man, what a hot streak we had, huh? On the live stream, man. The live stream is back, baby. We're back. YouTube cannot stop us. Well, they can. They did. But next time, please remember, if I'm not live streaming here, I'm over at Rumble. And I got one Rumble live stream. So next time, I want to see all Rumble when I get kicked off. Don't forget me. Anyhow, any final thoughts? What's going on this week? Oh, Thursday, I'll be at the Vineland Library in Vineland, New Jersey. And I will be doing my talk on how to hunt the Jersey Devil. And then on June 10th, I will be at Cassiano's in Hamilton, New Jersey. It's a coffee shop, but in the middle of town, they're having a food truck day. And I couldn't get into any of the events in Hamilton. And I was mad because the Hamiltonians wouldn't let me be a vendor at some of these events, because at least at one of them they said, no, books aren't, good night, Ryan. The Root Matt. He's here. The Root Matt. You missed a whole stream. I'm just wrapping it up. I couldn't get into the Hamilton events. And then finally, Cassiano's said, oh yeah, you could set up here. So I'm going to sell my books in the middle of the food truck thing. It's going to be great. I'm just so psyched to do it. All right. The Root Matt. I missed you, bro. I'm glad you're here, but I have to go. I'm out of iced tea. It's been over 2 hours. But thanks so much for tuning in. Thank everybody for coming into the live stream. My name is Tony D. Little Joan is asleep on the couch. We're out of here, and we'll see you in the next one.